Vanessa, put that phone away and help me with the gravy. My stepmother Claire snapped from across the kitchen, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. I looked up from my college textbooks scattered across the counter, where I had been studying between helping with Thanksgiving preparations. The tension in our Denver home was thick as molasses, and I could feel something wasn't right. My name is Vanessa McBride, and at 21, I was a junior at Colorado State University, majoring in criminal justice. I had always been fascinated by law enforcement, dreaming of becoming an FBI agent myself someday. The irony of that dream would soon become crystal clear. I lived at home to save money, commuting to campus 3 days a week while working part-time at a local accounting firm called Gravora Group. My father, Thomas McBride, owned a successful import-export business that had afforded us a comfortable life in an upscale neighborhood near Cherry Creek. Sorry, Claire. I was just finishing this chapter on federal investigations, I said, closing my criminology textbook and moving toward the stove. The smell of turkey and stuffing filled the air, but underneath it all was an undercurrent of anxiety I couldn't shake. Always with your nose in those books, Claire muttered, her perfectly manicured nails clicking against the wooden spoon as she stirred. Your father works hard to provide for this family. The least you could do is show some appreciation during the holidays. I bit my tongue. Claire had married my father 3 years ago, 6 months after my mother died in a car accident. She was only 15 years older than me, and she never let me forget that she was now the lady of the house. My father seemed different since their marriage. More secretive, more paranoid, taking calls at odd hours and disappearing for mysterious business trips. Where is Dad anyway? I asked, glancing at the clock. It was nearly 4 p.m. and our guests would arrive soon. He had to take an important call in his office. Something about a delayed shipment from overseas, Claire replied, but her voice wavered slightly. You know how demanding his clients can be. Through the kitchen window, I noticed a dark sedan parked across the street that I didn't recognize. It had been there all morning, and something about it made my skin crawl. Call it intuition, or maybe all those criminal justice classes were making me paranoid, but I had the distinct feeling we were being watched. The car's tinted windows revealed nothing, but I could sense eyes on our house. My phone buzzed on the counter, and I glanced at it quickly before Claire could scold me again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something compelled me to look. The message made my blood run cold. Walk away immediately. Say nothing to anyone at the table, especially your father. Growing up, I had always idolized my father. Thomas McBride was a self-made man who had built his import business from nothing after emigrating from Ireland in his 20s. He taught me about hard work, integrity, and standing up for what was right. At least that's what I believed until recently. Over the past few months, I had started noticing strange inconsistencies in his stories. Business meetings that ran until 3 a.m. Phone calls where he spoke in hushed tones about packages and deliveries. Most concerning was the way he had started asking me detailed questions about my college schedule, my friends, and even my social security number for what he claimed were insurance purposes. Vanessa, honey, could you help me understand something? He had asked just 2 weeks ago while we sat in his home office. For my accountant, I need to know all the places where your name might be listed. You know, bank accounts, credit cards, any business associations. At the time, I thought it was odd but harmless. Now, staring at that cryptic text message, every strange conversation came flooding back. The way he insisted I apply for a business credit card for emergencies. How he had me sign papers that he said were for college loan applications, but never let me read carefully. The way his business partner, Victor Kozlov, always looked at me with an uncomfortable intensity whenever he visited our house. Claire continued bustling around the kitchen, but I noticed her hands were shaking as she arranged the dinner rolls. She kept glancing toward the hallway that led to my father's office, where I could hear his muffled voice behind the closed door. His tone was agitated, urgent. Claire, I said quietly, is everything okay? You seem nervous. She whirled around, her face pale. Everything's fine. Why would you ask that? It's just that you've been jumpy all day, and Dad's been locked in that office for hours. Usually he loves helping with Thanksgiving dinner." Before Claire could respond, the doorbell rang. Through the front window, I could see our guests arriving. My Aunt Patricia and Uncle Robert, along with my younger cousin Jenny. Normal family members with normal lives who had no idea what kind of storm was brewing in our house. My phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. "FBI agents are in position. When I give the signal, go to your room immediately. Do not warn anyone. Your life depends on it." My hands started trembling as I read the words. FBI agents? What could they possibly want with our family? I looked around the kitchen with new eyes, suddenly seeing everything differently. The expensive renovations my father had done last year. The new cars. Claire's designer clothes and jewelry. Where was all this money really coming from? Through the kitchen window, I noticed 2 more cars had appeared on our street. People in dark clothing were walking casually along the sidewalk, but their movements seemed too purposeful, too coordinated. My criminology training kicked in, and I recognized the signs of a tactical operation unfolding. Whatever was about to happen, I realized I was standing in the center of it. The front door opened, and the house filled with the cheerful voices of my relatives. Aunt Patricia swept into the kitchen with her usual warmth, carrying a homemade pumpkin pie and chattering about traffic on the highway. Uncle Robert followed behind her, already loosening his tie and commenting on how delicious everything smelled. My cousin Jenny, who was 17 and perpetually attached to her phone, gave me a quick hug before disappearing into the living room. "Vanessa, dear, you look pale," Aunt Patricia said, studying my face with concern. "Are you feeling all right?" "Just tired from school," I managed to reply, but my voice sounded strange even to my own ears. The text messages had shaken me more than I wanted to admit. I kept glancing toward the window, trying to spot the surveillance vehicles without being obvious about it. My father finally emerged from his office, his face flushed and his hair slightly disheveled. He was putting on his best jovial host performance, but I could see the tension in his shoulders and the way his eyes kept darting toward the windows. "Patricia, Robert, so good to see you," he boomed, embracing my aunt with what seemed like forced enthusiasm. "I was just finishing up some urgent business calls. You know how it is in the import game. The world never sleeps." "Oh, Thomas, surely you can take 1 day off for family," Aunt Patricia chided gently. Of course. Business is done for the day," he replied, but I noticed his phone was still clutched tightly in his hand. As we all gathered around the dining room table, I tried to act normal while my mind raced. The elegant table setting looked the same as every other family gathering, but everything felt surreal. The crystal glasses caught the late afternoon light, the china plates gleamed, and the golden turkey sat proudly in the center of the table. Yet underneath this picture of domestic perfection, I sensed something sinister lurking. My father said grace, his voice steady and familiar, but I found myself studying his face instead of bowing my head. When had the laugh lines around his eyes started looking more like worry lines? When had his smile begun to seem practiced rather than genuine? "Let's start with what we're all thankful for this year," Claire announced, cutting into the turkey with practiced precision. "Thomas, why don't you begin?" My father cleared his throat and lifted his wine glass. "I'm thankful for my beautiful family, for another successful year in business, and for the opportunities that lie ahead." The way he emphasized opportunities sent a chill down my spine. My phone, which I had discreetly placed on my lap, buzzed with another message. "Now, go to your room. Do not look back. Do not warn anyone." I felt my heart hammering against my ribs as I made a decision that would change everything. I pushed back my chair and stood up, my legs feeling unsteady beneath me. "I'm sorry, everyone. I need to run upstairs for a moment. I think I left something on in my room." Vanessa, the dinner just started," Claire protested, her fork suspended halfway to her mouth. Whatever it is can wait. It'll just be a quick minute, I said, forcing a smile that felt like plastic on my face. I promise. I walked toward the staircase as casually as I could manage, but every step felt weighted with significance. Behind me, I could hear my family resuming their conversation, Aunt Patricia asking about Jenny's college applications, and Uncle Robert commenting on the football game. Normal family chatter that seemed to belong to a different universe than the one I was suddenly inhabiting. As I reached the top of the stairs, I heard the unmistakable sound of car doors slamming outside. Not just one or two, multiple vehicles arriving simultaneously. Through the upstairs hallway window, I could see dark SUVs positioned strategically around our neighborhood. Men and women in tactical gear were moving with practiced precision, surrounding our house. My phone rang, making me jump. The same unknown number that had been texting me. "Hello?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Vanessa McBride?" The voice was crisp, professional, female. "Yes." "This is Special Agent Rebecca Torres with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I need you to listen carefully and follow my instructions exactly. Your life may depend on it." The words hit me like a physical blow. FBI. This was really happening. "I don't understand. What's going on?" "Your father's business is not what you think it is. We have evidence that he's been using your identity to facilitate illegal arms trafficking. You're not just an innocent bystander. You're being set up as a fall guy for federal crimes." The hallway seemed to spin around me. Arms trafficking? My father? The man who had taught me to ride a bike and helped me with my homework was a criminal? "That's impossible," I breathed into the phone. "He imports textiles and furniture." "Vanessa, listen to me. In about 30 seconds, we're going to execute a federal warrant on your house. Your father is expecting this. We believe he's planning to eliminate any witnesses who could implicate him. That includes you." The words "eliminate witnesses" sent ice through my veins. "You're saying my father wants to kill me?" "We have recorded conversations indicating that he views you as a liability. He's been using your personal information to create shell companies, forge documents, and launder money from weapon sales. If he goes down, he's planning to make it look like you were the mastermind." Downstairs, I could hear the conversation continuing normally. Jenny was laughing at something Uncle Robert had said. Claire was asking if anyone wanted more wine. The domesticity of it all felt obscene given what I was learning. "What do I do?" I whispered. "Stay exactly where you are. Do not go back downstairs under any circumstances. We're coming in through the front door in 10 seconds. Your father may try to call you down. Do not respond." As if on cue, my father's voice boomed up the stairs. "Vanessa, come down here, sweetheart. Your Aunt Patricia wants to tell you about her trip to Europe." My blood turned to ice. The timing was too perfect, too convenient. Agent Torres was right. He was trying to get me back downstairs before the FBI arrived. "Vanessa," my father called again, his voice sharper this time. "Come down here right now." Through my bedroom window, I could see tactical officers taking positions around our house, snipers on neighboring rooftops, armored vehicles blocking both ends of our street. This wasn't just an arrest. This was a major federal operation. "They're here," Agent Torres said through my phone. "Whatever happens next, do not move from where you are." The front door exploded inward with a tremendous crash. Shouts erupted from downstairs. "FBI, federal agents, everyone on the ground." I could hear my aunt screaming, chairs scraping against the floor, and my father's voice raised in furious protest. But what chilled me most was Claire's reaction, or rather, her lack of one. Instead of surprised screams, I heard her say in a calm, resigned voice, "Thomas, they know everything." The sounds from downstairs were chaos incarnate. Heavy boots thundered across our hardwood floors. Multiple voices shouted commands. "Hands where we can see them. Do not move. Secure the perimeter." Through my phone, Agent Torres kept me informed. Your father just tried to reach for something in his jacket. My colleagues have him restrained. Your stepmother is being cooperative. She's been working with us for the past 6 months. Claire's been working with the FBI? The revelation hit me like a sledgehammer. Everything I thought I knew about my family was crumbling in real time. She contacted us after discovering your father's illegal activities. She's been providing information about his operation while trying to protect you. The reason she's been so tense lately is because she knew this day was coming. Downstairs, I could hear my Aunt Patricia crying and demanding to know what was happening. Uncle Robert's voice was raised in confusion and anger. My cousin Jenny was sobbing. These innocent family members had been dragged into a federal takedown because of my father's crimes. Vanessa, I need you to understand something, Agent Torres continued. Your father has been planning to disappear after this Thanksgiving dinner. We found evidence that he intended to fake your death and flee the country with the money he's stolen. You were never meant to survive today. The words made my legs give out, and I sank to the floor of the hallway. My own father, the man who had raised me, who I had loved and admired, had been planning to murder me. The betrayal was so complete, so devastating, that I couldn't even process it emotionally. Why? I whispered. Why would he do this to me? Money and desperation. His arms trafficking operation was worth millions, but it was falling apart. He needed a scapegoat, and he needed to eliminate anyone who could expose him. Your identity was perfect for creating the paper trail, and your death would have sealed the case shut. Heavy footsteps were coming up the stairs now. I could hear Agent Torres coordinating with her team. Subject is secured on the main floor. Victim is safe on the second floor. Moments later, a woman in FBI tactical gear appeared at the top of the stairs. She was tall, with short dark hair and kind but serious eyes. Vanessa, I'm Agent Torres. You're safe now. I looked at her numbly, still trying to process everything. My aunt and uncle, are they okay? They're fine. Confused and scared, but unharmed. They had no knowledge of your father's activities. We're getting statements from them now, and then they'll be free to go. What about Claire? She's been invaluable to our investigation. Without her cooperation, we might not have been able to save you in time. Agent Torres helped me to my feet. She genuinely cares about you, Vanessa. That's why she risked everything to help us. From downstairs, I could hear my father's voice, no longer the warm paternal tone I knew, but cold and calculating. You have nothing concrete. Everything you think you know is circumstantial. Then I heard Claire's voice, stronger than I had ever heard it. Thomas, stop. They have the recordings. They have the financial records. They have everything. You recorded me? My father's voice was filled with rage and disbelief. You treacherous. I protected your daughter, Claire shot back. Something you were never willing to do. Agent Torres looked at me with sympathy. I know this is overwhelming, but I need you to understand. You're not in trouble. You're a victim here. However, we're going to need your help to make sure your father pays for what he's done. Agent Torres led me downstairs, where the scene looked like something from a crime drama. FBI agents were photographing everything, bagging evidence, and coordinating through their radios. My aunt and uncle were seated on the living room couch, looking shell-shocked, but physically unharmed. Jenny was clinging to her mother, tears streaming down her face. My father sat in a chair near the dining room table, his hands zip-tied behind his back. When he saw me coming down the stairs, his expression shifted from anger to something that looked almost like relief. Vanessa, thank God you're safe, he said, his voice taking on that familiar paternal warmth. These agents have made some terrible mistake. I can explain everything. But I could see right through him now. The performance was flawless. The concerned father, the innocent businessman caught up in a misunderstanding. If I hadn't heard Agent Torres's explanation, if I hadn't seen the tactical operation unfold, I might have believed him. Don't, I said quietly. Just don't. His mask slipped for just a moment, and I saw something cold and calculating in his eyes. This was the real Thomas McBride, not my loving father, but a criminal who had been willing to sacrifice his own daughter to save himself. Claire approached me cautiously, her face streaked with tears. "Vanessa, I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you everything, but the FBI said it was too dangerous. He was monitoring your phone, your email, everything." "How long have you known?" I asked her. "I started suspecting something 6 months ago, when I found documents in his office. Bank accounts I'd never heard of. Shipping manifests for items that didn't match his business records. When I confronted him, he threatened me." She wiped her eyes. "But when I realized he was planning to involve you more directly, I contacted the FBI." Agent Torres joined our conversation. Claire provided us with crucial evidence: financial records, recorded conversations, shipping documents. Without her courage, your father might have successfully framed you for his crimes. I looked at my father again, studying the man who had shaped my entire worldview. Was any of it real? Our relationship, the values you taught me, the person I thought you were? He met my gaze steadily. "I loved you, Vanessa. I still do. But love doesn't pay for college tuition or keep a roof over your head. I did what I had to do to provide for this family." "You were going to kill me," I said flatly. For the first time, his composure cracked completely. "It wouldn't have been personal. It would have been quick, painless. You would have died believing your father loved you." The casualness with which he discussed my planned murder was more chilling than any rage could have been. This wasn't the man who had raised me. Or maybe it was, and I had never really known him at all. Agent Torres stepped forward. "Thomas McBride, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, international arms trafficking, money laundering, identity theft, and violation of federal firearms statutes." She began reading him his rights as other agents prepared to transport him. As they led him toward the door, my father turned back to me one last time. "I'm sorry it came to this, Vanessa. I truly am. But you'll understand someday. Family isn't always enough." "You're right," I replied, surprising myself with the steadiness in my voice. Family isn't always enough. But love should be. And real love doesn't involve murder. The look of genuine surprise on his face was the last thing I saw before the agents took him away. 6 months later, I sat in a federal courthouse in downtown Denver, watching my father's defense attorney make one final, desperate argument to the jury. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Financial records, recorded conversations, testimony from his criminal associates, who had agreed to cooperate in exchange for reduced sentences. But the most damaging evidence of all came from an unexpected source: me. In the weeks following his arrest, I had worked closely with the FBI to uncover the full extent of his criminal operation. They taught me how to access the shell companies he had created using my identity. Together, we traced money laundering operations across 3 countries. I helped them decode his communication patterns and identify other members of his trafficking network. What I discovered was worse than anything I had initially imagined. My father hadn't just been selling weapons. He had been supplying them to terrorist organizations and drug cartels. The blood money that had paid for my college tuition, our house, our comfortable lifestyle, was stained with the lives of countless innocent people. But it was the murder plot that sealed his fate. Claire's recordings revealed the chilling details of how he planned to stage my death. He had researched poisons that would mimic natural causes. He had practiced his grief-stricken father act in front of the mirror. He had even written a fake suicide note in my handwriting, claiming I couldn't live with the guilt of my crimes. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury," the prosecutor said in her closing statement, "Thomas McBride didn't just betray his country. He betrayed the most sacred trust of all, that between a father and daughter. He was willing to murder his own child to avoid accountability for his crimes." As the jury filed out to deliberate, my father's eyes met mine across the courtroom. I felt nothing. No love, no hatred, no sadness. Just a cold satisfaction that justice was finally being served. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. When they returned, the foreman stood and delivered their verdict. Guilty on all counts. My father's face remained impassive, but I saw his hands tremble slightly as the judge announced his sentence. Life in federal prison without the possibility of parole. As the guards led him away in shackles, I felt a profound sense of closure. The man who had raised me was gone, but the monster who had planned to kill me was finally being held accountable. Outside the courthouse, Agent Torres found me on the steps. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Free," I replied, and meant it. For the first time in months, I feel completely free. Claire joined us, her face showing the relief of someone who had carried a terrible burden for too long. "Thank you," she said to me, "for being strong enough to see this through." "Thank you for saving my life," I replied. "I know it couldn't have been easy." She smiled sadly. "You're the closest thing to a daughter I've ever had. I couldn't let him hurt you." Agent Torres handed me a business card. "I meant what I said before. If you're still interested in a career with the FBI, you have my recommendation. What you've accomplished over these past 6 months, the way you've helped us unravel this case, shows exactly the kind of integrity and intelligence we need." I looked at the card, thinking about my childhood dreams of becoming an FBI agent. Those dreams had been born from watching my father, believing he represented justice and moral courage. Now I knew the truth about him, but somehow that made my calling even clearer. "I'll think about it," I said, but I had already made my decision. Years later, Thomas McBride died alone in federal prison, his arms trafficking network completely dismantled, and his co-conspirators serving lengthy sentences. His reputation was destroyed, his assets seized, and his name became synonymous with betrayal in law enforcement circles. Claire used the seized assets to establish a foundation for victims of arms trafficking, ensuring that his blood money would finally serve a righteous purpose. As for me, I graduated summa cum laude and joined the FBI's counterterrorism division, where I specialized in tracking down criminals who exploit their own families for profit. Every case I solved, every criminal I helped bring to justice, felt like a small victory over the man who had tried to destroy me. The revenge I had sought wasn't just personal. It was a commitment to ensuring that no other child would suffer what he had planned for me.